Baobab Brilliance, Perspectives on Audacity, features Black women who are the embodiment of don't speak about it, be about it. Black women who write the vision and make it plain. I'm your host, Makia Moody. Let's get into it. Amy, Allison, it is so great to be with you.
Makia, it's great to be with you, and thank you so much for having me.
I am excited. You are all of number 2 on my podcast interview list, and I am
Yay!
overjoyed. Yeah, I'm overjoyed you said yes. So my first question for you is like, what word or phrase describes how you are entering into our energy exchange this afternoon?
I'm feeling a little delicate today.
Delicate sounds real.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit delicate today, but I'm also feeling resolved and strong in purpose. I also feel quite grounded.
Awesome. I want some of that. I want some of the resolve and the groundedness. And I believe that some of that is going to rub off on me in this conversation this afternoon.
Well, I'll share a little something with you right now.
Okay.
I'll- I have a terrible memory. I walk into a room, why am I in here? Like I pick up my phone, why did I pick up this phone? What am I doing? And I blame in part my bad memory on the fact that I can recall the lyrics to every song that was popular between like 1955 and maybe 2005, 2015, somewhere in there. So my head is filled with song lyrics. And the what I have come to appreciate about this is that I believe those song lyrics provide me with some level of like a protective factor. And the lyrics I need come to me in the moment that I need them. And this morning I woke up feeling a little bit delicate and a little bit tender. And I was walking to get coffee at the start of my day. And the words that came to mind are those of Erica Badu in the song 20 Feet Tall. And in the chorus, she says, "My love, what did I do to make you fall so far from me? Right now, I can't recall the cause of the fall, selective memory. And you built a wall, a 20-foot wall so I couldn't see. But if I get off my knees, I might recall I'm 20 feet tall." And I was like, yes, Erica, I am 20 feet tall. I am 20 feet tall.
I love that. And I receive it. I'm gonna walk around telling myself that I'm 20 feet tall. That is so fascinating to me that your memory is full of song lyrics.
Mhm.
And you said from 1955 to 2000 something?
Yeah, which is the thing. Like I wasn't born yet. I wasn't born yet, but I love music. Like music is life to me. And if I hear a song, not so much anymore, because like I think I've like reached my capacity for song lyrics. If I hear a song, sometimes I don't even have to like it. The lyrics will just stick, and so it's in there. So I know the lyrics to a bunch of doo-wop songs. It's just a quirk of who I am. So 20 feet tall. That's my
20 feet.
offering to you.
I receive it. And music is such a balm. So the name of this series is Baobab Brilliance, Perspectives on Audacity, because the baobab tree is considered the tree of life. I believe it's indigenous to the continent of Africa, resistant to fire, and plays a crucial role in the ecosystems it's in by like providing food, shelter to various animals, etc. And as I was thinking about this series, I think that Black women have a lot in common with baobab trees. Just
Mm,
like they are 20 feet tall, like
mm.
fortified, resilient, resolved, all of that. I'm wondering, like, what wisdom comes to you from like Mother Earth and nature as I'm like thinking about like the baobab tree being this sensational
Mhm.
piece of our natural landscape.
I draw a lot of comfort and inspiration from the natural world. For folks who know me, I like to say I like to go outside and play. And so I try to spend as much time in the woods as possible. I like to spend as much time as I can on water and in water as much as I can. I was in a conversation earlier today where I was referring to myself as nautical by nature. And I also am fascinated by our universe and the night sky. And so there's a few things about that in terms of like inspiration and thinking about my place in the world. One, because I care about the planet, the sky, the universe, I look up a lot. And so both literally and figuratively. And in particularly in difficult situations, like one of the things I will say to myself is, Jamie, look up. And that's what I say to myself for like, Jamie, let's think about the long-term horizon. Let's think about like what this situation could be, might be in the fullness of time. This is just a moment. And thinking about the fullness of time from a like universe perspective, it's like, oh, well, this little thing I'm going through right now is nothing compared to the vastness of our little corner of the galaxy. Like we can't even really see our entire galaxy. Like we're in it and like we can't even see the whole thing. We're out on like a little, and we can see a portion of the Milky Way in the night sky, but we can't see all of it. And so when I put things in that perspective, it's like, oh, Jamie, you're gonna be all right.
I guess like what we lose by not being able to see the full picture, or perhaps what we gain. Like something's always out of reach
Mm,
or elusive. And so it also gives like maybe more space to dream or think about the possibilities when you're not necessarily boxed into all that is. Oh, I like that. The Milky Way,
yeah,
just a
yeah,
little tale of the Milky Way.
yeah. Just like in a little spiral. And like not, and we're not in the center. Like we're not even in the middle of it. We're literally like we're out on a little spiral tail.
I think the fact that you know this, I'm like so intrigued and want to just go down this like astrological interrogation with you of like where all the things emerge from as it relates to like the night sky and the stars. But I'm going to manage myself and ask you a different question, which I think you've already spoken to in some ways in this conversation with like
Okay.
the song lyrics that are kind of like, you know, in your head for decades and decades to, being nautical by nature. So we contain multitudes. Tell me about yours. And where does Audacity show up?
I think one of the reasons I am interested in the night sky and stars and planet and our universe and other universes is that we come from that. Like all the things that make a star also make us stars. And so I don't feel separate from that. And again, I find just a lot of comfort and inspiration from that. And then this is when I say, because I'm a really big Prince fan, baby, I'm a star. Like, but also literally, we're stars. We're stars, just in a different form and living out a cosmic spiritual journey in a human form, which is in itself kind of audacious and wild that we get to do this thing. Not everybody gets to do it. And I want to do everything I possibly can while I get to be on this journey. Some of that is about like the universe and ooh, I get to do this thing in this human form. And some of it is related to both of my parents are deceased. And I like carry them with me all day, every day. My mother in particular, I wear something of my mother's every day. And even though I can't call her on the phone in the way that I used to. I'm in constant conversation with her. And my mother, her mom died when my mom was 11.
Mhm.
And, my mom, was a child during a time that, people didn't really think about children's rights or like children's feelings. And so no one asked her how she felt. No one talked to her about where she was going to live. No one asked her if she wanted any of her mother's things. And so after her mother died, like there were just a series of decisions that were made for her, and she had no say. Like she didn't even get any advance notice. Like just suddenly, like you live here, this is your room, this is not your room. Oh nope, you're going to live over there. Like, and so when my mother had me, she talked about death all the time, like, but not in a macabre way, like not in a scary way, but in a way that just normalized death and dying for me. And so, she would regularly say things like, "Baby, I have to tell you this thing because I could die tomorrow," or "I need to know that you know how to do this thing. I need to teach you this thing. You need to learn this thing because I could die tomorrow." I remember once when I was maybe about 12 years old, she got me a credit card. And she said to me, she said, "Listen, I need to teach you how to use credit. I need to know that you can be responsible with a credit card because should I die, you might need something. Like you might need something for school, like you might need something." And she said, "And your father loves you, but your father, he's gonna date. He's gonna like I'm gonna die. He's gonna have this life. And I believe that your father will pay this bill, but you need to be able to get the thing that you need in the moment that you need it. And your father might not be there to do it for you." And so like I have to teach you how to do this thing. And so there was just a lot of that. And as I got older and as she got older, she also talked to me a lot about what she wanted when she died. And when she did die, though there's no preparing for it, in a way, I was very prepared, so much so that the friends who were with me at the time were like, "You're like channeling your mom." And it's like, "Oh, like I feel her, like I hear her talking to me. We've been having these conversations for years." I say all that to say, I know I'm not going to be here that long. And if I know I'm not going to be here, then I want to make the most of the time that I have here. Like there's an expiration date on my presence in this form on the planet. And so I'm going to do all the things I can get this human form to do.
That's really powerful. And also, I'm not sure what the word is that I want, but the level of foresight I think that your mom had. And as you were talking about at the start of this conversation, like the long-term horizon, it seems like a real gift to kind of be like brought along to understand that death is something that happens and it doesn't need to be feared and like you can prepare for it in some ways. Obviously, there's
Mhm.
still, all of the transition that happens. But that sounds really beautiful because I think as a society, Americans specifically, it feels like we don't like think about preparing for death in a way
Mhm.
that's let's make it accessible for people. Let's talk
Mhm.
about like what may emerge and come up when you actually, get to that point. So I'm glad that you shared that. And also it has me thinking of, I think it's Alua Arthur, who's like a death doula.
Mm.
She was in like an interview a while back about like how she helps people with like end of life preparations and like transitions. And it's just a fascinating concept to me because I think we should be as intentional about how we transition to back to stardust as we are like when we're coming into the world and taking up space.
Knowing that I'm going to die heavily influences how I live.
You mentioned you're going to do all the things in this
Mm.
earthly body of yours.
Uh-huh.
Are there any that you want to share that may have been or that are on the horizon where it's like, I'm going to take this leap, or like, here's my audacious step because I know I'm on like limited time and I want it all? Like, what comes up?
Well, I mean, oh my gosh, there's so many ways I could answer this question. I mean, there's the all girl band that I need to form and we need to go on tour. Like, I haven't done that yet, and I really want to. I preface this with, have I ever written a song? Nope. Am I proficient at playing any instruments? Nope. Is that going to stop me? Also, no.
I love it. I love it.
Also, no. You know, when I think about my career, for example, my work, for example, like a lot of my work is doing things I have never done before. And so, like, if I only did things I'd done before, that would be a really small, like, little limited amount of things that I would ever get to do. And so, when I talk about like living fully and doing all the things I can get this body to do, then it also means like, oh, I'm just gonna try a lot of things and see what happens. Let's see what I get to learn. Let's see what mistakes I make. Let's see, I don't know, who I meet along the way. Let's see like who keeps coming back, like who do I keep running into, over and over and over again as I, try on new things. So there's an all girl band perhaps in my future. Um, what else might I do? I have to say that I'm a little bit like adventure seeking. So, if anybody actually I don't have to be invited, I come up with these things alone. It's like I'm always trying to, I don't know, fly in something, jump off something, so, like it's like, oh,
Yeah.
let's see what, I'm always trying to parasail or, I'm always trying to do just like a little something to like just push. What will I learn? What will be revealed? I recently just had a Thai massage for the first time. And for anyone who's had a Thai massage, it is not for the faint at heart. It is not relaxing at all. And I remember being on the table and I was like, oh, all of my failures as a human are like rising to the surface like right now, like during this hour, like everything I have ever messed up, every feeling I've ever hurt, every mistake I've ever made, because it was super pain, like it was physically painful, but it like really brought to the surface like um all the ways that I have not lived up, to my own high standards. And I was describing this to a friend, and she's like, "Are you gonna do it again?" I was like, "Absolutely, I'm gonna do it again." Because it just, if like, it was full of learning for me. Like I did, it was like, oh, I didn't know I was carrying all those things around. And I don't know if that's something that typically happens in Thai massage. Like I haven't asked anyone else, like, oh, like did you
Wow.
was anything revealed to you about yourself during that hour of massage? I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if that's happened to other people. But it did happen to me. And so I'm gonna do it again. Um, like what a gift to be in a situation where I could see some of my shortcomings and see some of the places where I could have done better and where I would like to do better next time. So I'm into it.
There is one place where we are different because when you were describing it, I was like, oh, hell no, I am not doing Thai massage. So it's no, yeah, I'm not into my pain threshold is not high. So the fact that you're like, I will definitely do it again, I'm like, oh, that's one of your multitudes. Going back for more.
Yeah, I'd like to do it more, one, to see what else I learn about myself. And then I also want to keep doing it to see if I reach a point at which it doesn't hurt anymore.
Ah, interesting. So let me ask this question. So you, I want to like maybe piece together. You sound very evolved to me. Like to go back to Thai massage because it's like, well, maybe if I keep doing it, I could like, reach a pinnacle where it doesn't hurt anymore. And I'm wondering, like when you were a kid growing up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, like
Oh, you know things.
are you like do you feel or so for example you've said so many things in this short time where I'm like I wonder if that's what like 5-year-old I wonder if that's what 5-year-old Jamie was like, so like the sense of adventure, the wanting to try all the things, kind of being like not unhinged, but just like free to be like, I want to play. I'm gonna like try this, try that. Um, I think I'm curious about if you had that essence as a child or if it evolved as you kind of grew and like, you know, took up more space in this cosmic place we're in. Or yeah, I guess like if it existed when you were a child or if it's kind of like something that's like in development and continues to grow in your adult years.
I think it's a band. So there's a back to my bad memory. I remember almost nothing about my childhood.
Mm,
And most of what I remember are stories about me as a child, as opposed to like I have the memory. So, a story that I remember about me as a child is that I would, add a little suitcase. This part I remember. I had a strawberry shortcake suitcase. Loved that thing. And the story is that I would pack this suitcase like as a little kid, with my clothes and maybe some toys. I don't know what I was putting in there. And I had a rocking chair in my room, and I would sit in that rocking chair and pretend to be on a plane. I'd never been on a plane. I didn't get on a plane for the first time until I was 15 years old. So like I'd never been on a plane before, but I would pack this little suitcase, I would get in this chair, I would rock in the chair and pretend to fly places. And my mother says that like when she would see me do this, like she knew, she was like, this is my baby's not gonna stay here. Like she's not gonna stay. Like, and she was like, I really want you to stay here with me. And she's like, this is not a kid who's gonna stay here. And so she was like, so she would say that she always knew that I was gonna be this person. Because like in my imaginary play, like I was like out having adventures, even though there wasn't necessarily like anything happening in, my reality that would suggest that I was going to be off, and throwing myself into the sky, which I do sometimes. At the same time, one of the things I recognize myself is that I'm a very serious person, and I work at going outside to play. And I work at reminding myself about the things that just make me feel joyful and things that are silly. And so I'm intentional about embracing those things because my default setting is often very serious and pragmatic and sort of goal oriented, and like I hold myself to really high standards. So like I'm like constantly trying to figure out how can I mean, even in that story about the Thai massage, it's like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing until I conquer like that's kind of my default. It's like you can't tell me what I can't do. Like I like if something is, even if it seems impossible, like I'm gonna be the kid to do it. I'm gonna be the kid to figure it out. Like that's kind of my default setting. And so like the playfulness, the oh let's parasail, oh let's jump off a thing, oh let's, I don't know, get in this boat and like jump out, like what I mean, like I make myself do that.
sounds like adrenaline.
I must.
But like when
I
you talk
think
about jumping off things, I'm like, oh, I need to see the bottom. I can't.
I like being scared a little bit. When I first moved to San Francisco from Chattanooga, I was really nervous about it. And I remember my first night in San Francisco. I had rented I was going to sublease an apartment, but I needed to arrive for my new job before I could take possession of this apartment that I was subleasing. And so I was staying in a hotel for a little while. And the first night in San Francisco, I couldn't sleep, and I turned on the television, and there was a documentary about, um, or that featured Yo-Yo Ma, the cellist. And I don't remember a lot of the interview, but I remember there's a portion of the conversation where the setup for a question or a prompt to Yo-Yo Ma was something about how courageous some of his compositions and collaborations are. And he said that he didn't feel courageous at all, and that mostly he was really scared, and that he knew when he was doing something important. He knew that when he knew that he was being most creative when he was really scared, and that for him that signaled that he was really pushing himself, and that he was doing something important, and that if he wasn't scared, then that might mean that he these are my words, not his, that maybe he was just coasting. And that really resonated for me. I think he was much more eloquent than, I'm being right now, but I do have a sense that if I'm on cruise control, then I'm not working hard enough. I'm not striving enough. I'm not learning enough. I'm not growing enough or as much as I could be. And so, yeah, like I do think I might be adrenaline seeking, but in the like, ooh, let's see what happens if, I get tethered from this boat and I'm 800 feet in the sky. Ooh, let's do that. But like also in my personal life and in my physicality, like I work with a trainer and I've been doing some powerlifting and it's like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Like let me see like how much I can do.
Wow, you seem to have a lot of energy.
Oh my gosh, I'm exhausted.
I was going to ask you actually, like, what do you do to incite joy? Like, do you have like rituals or practices that are kind of mainstays for you when you do need to be like energized by joy?
Oh, well, music is the easy answer. Music is a really big part of my life. I listen to music every day. Uh, I'm constantly singing to myself. Oh, I should also mention in my whole girl band situation, I have a terrible singing voice. Like I can't sing. I sing all the time. I sound terrible. But is that going to stop me? No. I sing all of the time. But yeah, so music is a big part of joy for me. I have two godsons, and I just adore them, and they are just such fascinating little creatures to me. And getting to spend time with them and getting to watch them grow up also is really joyful for me. And I feel so lucky that I get to be in their lives and that we have things in common and things we enjoy doing together. And, like we have our shorthand and the things we do together, like that makes me really, really happy. And to be part of young people's lives and to think about their long-term journey and what we get to do together and what they're going to do when I'm not here with them anymore. Like I just like that is also a source of joy for me. And then like the outdoors and the night sky, which we've also talked about. But again, like I said, like I'm talking myself into joyfulness a lot. Like it's like, there's like negative self-talk, like the thing we do, we're like, oh, you're not worthy and imposter syndrome and you can't do it and everybody hates you. I also have a very intentional, like joyful self-talk. And so I'm talking myself into it all the time.
Because you're
But it's
20 feet
not
tall.
because I'm 20 feet tall. And this morning that's what I needed. Like I didn't wake up joyful. Like I woke up delicate today. Like I woke up feeling tender. I woke up exhausted. I woke up being like, oh, we doing this again today? Like, didn't I do it yesterday? Why do I have like I have to do it again today? Like, okay, okay. Let's try this thing again. And if I get off my knees, I might recall I'm 20 feet tall.
Message and reminder. Almost like, yeah, I feel a little convicted in the moment, which is good. Like it's a good, I can tell that that phrase is going to be lasting for me over the next few days.
But there's agency in it. There's agency in it and there's work in it too, right? So it's like, yeah, 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 you're 20 feet tall, but you got to get off your knees first.
Mhm.
If I get off my knees, I might recall I'm 20 feet tall. I gotta put the work in. And this is who you are, birthright.
I I receive it. I receive it. Um, so I did want to ask, I have two more questions for you, and then I'll
Sure.
ask you if there's any, anything you want to offer the atmosphere before we wrap up around, and I might get the program name wrong, but I think I remember
Hmm.
sometime last year I read about the Haas Fund doing something that I thought was kind of like otherworldly as it related to like thriving nonprofit leaders and like investing in organizations in a from a place of abundance and like multi-year investments and like really going all in. Where I think
Hmm.
one of my critiques of philanthropy is like there's so much privilege and power, and sometimes these institutions are like, oh, but we can't. I don't know. What if we do? Like they don't make it happen. Um, and I'm forgetting the name of the
It's the
program,
Endeavor Fund.
the Endeavor Fund. So I'm curious about kind of how your disposition and experiences and leadership are like sprinkled on the Endeavor Fund. Because in this conversation, I feel like you've given me a lot of examples of where you are like your full-throated self who is like parasailing and jumping off cliffs and kind of, seeing what's possible, going back to Thai massage after it hurts a lot. And I feel like you endeavored with the Endeavor Fund to do something different and kind of like show philanthropy like we can remix this and be better and do better. And so I guess I'm wondering like how your personal compass maybe like helped get Endeavor Fund to be Endeavor Fund.
Yeah. Well, one, I love that we had all the conversation we had before you brought up Endeavor Fund, because one way I can respond to this, like where my fingerprints on this Endeavor thing is literally in the name. So Endeavor means to like put forth sustained effort over time, to achieve a goal. And that is very much like part of my ethos and like my work. Like I'm going to keep at a thing until. And then the other thing that you might notice about the word endeavor, it is that it is also the name of a space shuttle. So like there's some fingerprints there. Like, and that, and that's thought about that. Like that's intentional. And that now granted a lot of us inside of the organization were proposing names, because for a while we were developing the concept and working with trustees, we were talking about the elements of the thing, but it didn't have a name. And when it came time, they were like, okay, we have to name this thing something. Like we had all kinds of shorthand ways that we referred to it inside of the organization. But when it came time for a name, Endeavor was right for this because of like the space exploration, experimentation, and also because of the meaning of the actual word about sustained effort over time. And the Endeavor Fund is incredible. It provides 7-year long grants to organizations that are working to address the racial and gender wealth gap, and the grants are substantive. They are $500,000 a year for each year of the 7 years, so $3.5 million for each organization. This is the largest investment that the Walter and Elise Haas Fund has ever made. The Walter and Elise Haas Fund is a 72-year-old family foundation that has operated in fairly conventional ways. In the last 20 years before launching the Endeavor Fund, our average grant size never reached above $50,000. It hovered somewhere between 37 and 42,000. We made a lot of 1-year grants. We made a lot of project support grants. And so going from, a $37,000, $42,000 average grant size to, 7-year grants at $500,000 a year is a really big shift. And I didn't come to the Walter and Elise Haas Fund with, we will have an Endeavor Fund, we will make, we will make 7-year grants. But I did come to the fund with an understanding of the ways that philanthropy can create barriers to progress. and we're supposed to be in the business of progress. And so I was able to have, a series of conversations with the staff and with trustees about like what's our purpose? Like what are we supposed to be doing? To whom are we in service? Like, what's our center of gravity? Is the center of gravity like our office and what we and this team, or is the center of gravity the community and the possibility and the progress that we want to be part of in our community? And if our center of gravity is community progress, then we should take a look at our behavior and see if our behavior says what we want is progress, what we want is community members who have agency and a sense of self determination and purpose and dignity. Like, if that's what we want, then we got to ask ourselves every practice we have, does that create agency and progress, or does it create like barrier and really bad conditions? And so when we started to look at all of the things we were doing, we recognized that we were doing just a lot of things out of convention because that's just what philanthropy does. That's how philanthropy behaves. And in some cases, that's what philanthropy says is a best practice. But as someone I greatly admire, Crystal Haling, who's the former CEO of the Libra Foundation, I heard her at a speaking engagement once say that in philanthropy, sometimes what we call a best practice is actually just a really bad habit. And so we
Mm.
started to look at what are the ways that we are behaving that might be counter to the progress we want to see in the world. And we adopted sort of a shorthand motto internally that we want to fund our partners to win. We want our partners to win for their mission. So it's like, okay, if we want folks to win, can they win with a $12 project support grant? Like, can you win with that? Maybe not. Okay. It's like, all right, if you can't win with the $12 project, it's like, okay, well, can you win with a $12 operating support grant? That's getting better. But maybe, but what do we have to do to like full with our full hearts, with our full bodies, like say to an organization, we believe in your mission, we believe in the work that you're doing, and we want to do our part to see you win. That's a whole different set of practices and behaviors and ways of working. So and for us, it's about the money, but it's also about just the how in general. And so we really care about how we do our work because we know that how matters and has an impact on our nonprofit partners whom we want to win. And so it's changed a lot about what our staff roles are and what staff titles are, how we work together as a team, and the importance of fully recognizing the talents of everyone on the team. Like, yes, we have different roles, but we all have something to contribute towards supporting our nonprofit partners to win and really activating all of that talent internally has been a big shift for us. Um, is it messy? Yes. Is it chaotic? Absolutely. Do we make mistakes? All the time. Do we learn from those mistakes? And like we've like adopted like the ideas of design thinking. And it's like we iterate, we prototype, we try a thing, we keep doing it, we keep doing it, we keep doing it. We support each other in doing it. We've had to spend a lot of time like investing in like giving and receiving feedback. So we did a lot of training for that because we are working in new ways. And when you work in new ways, sometimes you're going to make a mistake and sometimes you're going to get on somebody's nerves. And sometimes you're going to be confused about, wait, what was I supposed to do? We've never done this before. Uh-oh, like I missed the deadline. And so, just trying to create an environment where we can give and receive feedback, where we can be supportive of each other. But again, recognizing what our center of gravity is. And our center of gravity is not this place. Like our center of gravity is the community that's doing working really hard and doing everything they can to enrich our lives and to bring us joy and healing and celebration, but also to save us during times of crisis, which brings me to the second piece of like Endeavor Fund and changing how the fund behaves so that we can support our nonprofit partners to win. Our nonprofit partners are filled with leaders who dedicate their lives all day, every day to making society better. And often, nonprofit jobs are really crummy, like they're not high quality jobs. And philanthropy plays a role in the chronic sort of compensation insufficiency, which is, related to, having stable budgets, within an organization. And so if we want to fund our partners to win, we have to fund them in ways that can create stability in their budgets so that they can offer competitive pay, so they can offer benefits, so they can offer paid time off because we can't expect the people who are educating us, helping to house us, helping to feed us, helping to nurture our children, helping to create artistic expression and cultural expression in our communities. They can't do that if they're commuting for 4 hours to get to work because they can't afford to live in the place where they work. They can't do that if their children don't get to take those piano lessons or play that sport because like all that, like
Mhm.
they have to have stable lives so that they can continue dedicating their lives to keeping us all safe and stable.
So many things. One of them is the SSIR article that you co-wrote, I think earlier this year around operationalizing trust,
Hmm.
um, that talked about like kind of like interrogating like when you're operating from a place of habit to moving towards intentionality, which is, I mean, I feel like Endeavor Fund is so crucial and critical. Um, and I was just thinking of other foundations that I think are in that realm. So like Carmen Rojas at Margaret Casey Foundation came to mind, and like their
Love.
yeah, and like their public dollars for public good campaign, and just like how they invest in the organizations that are on the ground, like doing the heavy lifting to hopefully salvage whatever is left of this democracy. And then Katali Foundation, and kind of like
Love.
when you talked about failing and learning and like getting good at receiving feedback, like when they do their like annual kind of like here's what we learned, here's what like we're taking in and changing and remixing, I'm just like it's so refreshing because I feel like
Mhm.
philanthropy doesn't generally have to be accountable because it's just kind of like these are the structures and the systems, etc. So it's refreshing to hear more about Endeavor Fund and that there's like tangible changes for people's lives that are within that portfolio. And hopefully, you know, more people, more foundations will pick up what you're putting down and try it, realize it's not so scary. All right. Well, I
I
feel
mean, that's certainly our hope. Size foundation. And again, like we're 72 years old. So if we can do it, like I think, we're proof of concept. If we
hmm,
can do it, then other foundations who have the interest and the will to do so can do it too.
yeah. So as I bring us to a lovely close, I'm reminded of something that Geraldine Coffey, my first interview for Baobab Brilliance, shared, which was that there should be more girl love. Like we should be giving the flowers to people when we can give them their
Mm.
flowers. And so, Jamie, I have some flowers to give to you before my final
Oh.
question. And the flowers are I first encountered you when I was doing work with Board Source around the executive transition lessons. And I remember thinking like, oh, like I've heard of this person and now I'm talking to this person and like learning more, all the things. And I just appreciate, I saw or listened to your interview with Darrenism from Dreaming in Color. And I know that you just spoke to Satanya there at Peak Grant Making, but I
Yeah.
bookmarked it. I didn't listen to the conversation yet. And so I appreciate that you are out in the world, not prophesying. That's not the word I want, but just like sharing wisdom and insight to be proof of concept and to be like, yeah, like we can do this. Like, let's figure it out. And I think I just appreciate that you have like so many. perspectives and insights that you bring to bear, you know? So like I'll be following up with you to see how this girl band gets launched and what instrument you decide to play. But it's
Mhm.
just been lovely to share space with you today because yeah, there's so many words for this time that we're in. And it's nice to like be in community with people where it's like, okay, you are like sparking my joy in this conversation just to hear about all the things that you are sprinkling your glitter on. And so thank you for doing that. And then I remembered my
Oh,
last question.
can I some flowers? One, thank you so much for those kind words. I really appreciate it. I am beyond like flattered and honored that you would want to have this conversation with me and have me as a guest for your podcast. And I too remember you from the Board Source engagement, where I'm a very proud board member. Shout out to Board Source.
Woohoo!
And because, one of the ways I intentionally try to spark joy is through superlatives. And I remember saying to you, are we the best group you've ever worked with in the history of the world ever? And you said, no, I've worked with a group. And I thought, that wasn't what I wanted to hear, but that's exactly what I needed to hear. And like, I really appreciated just like one, your dry sense of humor, but I also just appreciated like the honesty in that. And I appreciated like your self possession in that moment. Like, you could have been like, you're absolutely the best, and I love you, and I've never seen anyone as good as you. And you're like, no, actually, I work with good people all the time. And I love that. And I'm not going to forget it.
That's funny you say that because now I'm remembering that meeting and how I played like a Whitney Houston song that was supposed to be an energizer and nobody got up to move. I was like, well, maybe next time we'll get a different soundtrack.
I bet if you came back and did that, that people would. Because in the last few board meetings, we've been talking a lot about music, and there's some people who like been circulating some playlists.
Oh,
I got an
awesome.
email from a board member the other day about a music festival he's going to, and he's like, "I think you like festivals. Are you going to this festival? You should be at this festival." So I bet if you showed up today and put the Whitney Houston on, there'd be some dancing.
Awesome. And then my final, I keep stalling. So I wanted to know why P is your favorite letter. I read that in your bio. And like, was that
Yeah.
when you were a kid or is that a new emerging thing?
Again, that's just little Jamie, like little child Jamie. For whatever reason, as a child, I really liked the letter P. I like the way it sounds. So I like words that have the letter P in it. My favorite word is peripatetic because it has a bunch of P's in it. Yeah, like I don't know, I like the hard P sound. I think it's great. And it's strange because one would think that, I don't know if I was going to have a favorite letter, it might be J because my name starts with a J. There are no P's in my name, but I do love the letter P. My favorite color is purple, and I'm a huge Prince fan. So all of those things may or may not be related.
Well, to be continued, because I think that your girl band can do some Prince covers and that would be just otherworldly.
There is already an outstanding Prince cover band called Princess, that Maya Rudolph and another SNL comedian whose name I couldn't say to you right now. But they have a band and they do Prince covers, and they are really, really fun to see. I love them.
Oh, awesome. Well, I
That
learned
doesn't mean that
something.
I cover band too, or that I can't be in a band that sometimes does Prince covers, but there's an excellent Prince cover band out there.
Wow. Good to know. Good to know. Well, Jamie, it's been a pleasure. I'm so glad that we were able to connect today. And I wish you much success and joy and adrenaline with all of your future endeavors.
I like what you did there. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for using your time and talents to have these conversations, and to put them in the world. I look forward to listening to future episodes.